Okay, the fun factor. We're almost halfway through chapter 19. Back to Enid's house. The rain. Okay. The rain was pelting down by the time we got back to my house. The boys were huddled on the doorstep when we panted up to join them, but we could barely all fit on the step, and a small overhang above the door wasn't keeping the rain off. "It's locked," said Reggie, stating the obvious as always, and ringing on the doorbell like crazy. And so's the back door. This wasn't the first time this had happened since Melissa had arrived. If there was a lock, you could be sure she used it. On her briefcase, her laptop, her phone, when she still had it, she'd given it up like everyone else. And our front door too. "I'm sorry," she had said. "Force of habit. In London, you need to lock everything." We weren't in London now, but we were still locked out. "Quick, next door," I shouted. And we made a run for it. We ducked under the low branches of the cherry tree by the gate and up the path. Long sodden grass whipped at our legs. Izzy was first to burst through Enid's back door, with the rest of us tumbling after. I slammed it shut behind us, and we flopped down into the living room sofa, or onto the living room sofas. "I'm soaked," said Reggie, running his hands through his hair and throwing his wet jumper down. "Me too," Charlie added, tugging at his shorts. "Right down to my pants. It feels like I've wet myself."
Parsley.
Izzy wrinkled a nose in disgust and plucked at her t-shirt. "It stinks in here. When will we get back to let us in? When will someone get back to let us in?" "Dunno," I said. "Dad might be ages. Depends how long his run is. Shannon will have gone into town by now, and Melissa, well, she's probably out on one of her secret missions," said Reggie, leaning across to give Charlie another whack. Their game of top thumps clearly wasn't over. "What secret missions?" asked Izzy. I was glad she asked, because it meant I didn't have to. "The ones she does at night, when she's out doing her spying." "Ow!" Reggie rubbed his arm, and Charlie leapt away before he could get revenge. "Is Melissa really a spy?" Izzy asked me. I opened my mouth to speak, but you can only speak when you have something to say. I didn't. Imagine tackling a tricky maths problem, and then someone walks past and slips an answer onto your desk, but it isn't the answer to your problem. What was the reason for all these changes? Could it be that easy? Because life's not normally like that. And if it was Melissa, what on earth did that mean? That would make my first problem look like a lift the flat picture book. Well, I guess... "Of course she is," interrupted Reggie, who was looking up at the windows. "She goes out after we're in bed, trying not to make any noise. Nobody knows what she does, not even Dad, and she works for that Red Dot spying company too," he said with a grunt as he climbed onto the back of the sofa. My head was spinning. I felt completely out of control, like someone else was making up the rules. Reggie wasn't supposed to know more than me, and here he was, standing on the windowsill, staring up at the windows, spouting all this spying stuff about Melissa. I needed to show them that I knew stuff too. "The red spots are everywhere," I said. "They were on the van that fitted our burglar alarm, and the truck with the village bikes, and that piece of paper I found in the park." "And the golf buggies," added Izzy. "And Melissa's laptop," added Reggie, reaching up on tiptoes while Charlie thumped his legs, trying to make him fall over. "What?" I couldn't help myself. "There's a sticker on the bottom," he said. He looked at me. "How else would we know she's a spy?" "Oh yes, I forgot." "Oh yes," I said, "I forgot." I needed a moment to think about this. "What are you doing, Reggie?" "I'm trying to reach that window," he said. "The rain's coming in. Look, the carpet's getting wet." He was right. One of the small top windows was ajar. Water was dribbling onto the windowsills and dripping onto the carpet, turning one of the big swirly orange flowers a dark brown colour. I climbed up beside Reggie, elbowing him out of the way, and yanked the small window shut. That would explain how the swarms of flies from yesterday had escaped, but that wasn't what I was thinking. about. None of us had opened that window. Not today, not yesterday, never. Children don't open windows for a bit of fresh air. It's not something we think about. Could windows fall open? I guess in an old house anything can happen. But for now, I didn't say anything. This was secret knowledge, and I had a lot of catching up to do. Reggie jumped up from the window, still on the sofa, with a shout. Reggie jumped from the sofa, Reggie jumped from the windowsill onto the sofa with a shout, catching Charlie by surprise. They rolled off onto the floor. So what's she spying on then? Asked Izzy, sounding 1 out of 10 interested. If I had to guess, I reckon she thought that this was definitely a boy problem. Reggie stopped rolling on the floor for a moment. What or who? No idea. Dad? Shannon? Thora? Who cares? And that was it. He was lost in the game again. She's not actually a spy, is she, Thora? Asked Izzy. My dad reads spy books, and there's always blood on the cover, or a knife or something. It's hard to say, I said, quickly thinking. Maybe she's trying to work out who's turning everything off and making everything go wrong. She's trying to catch a baddie. This was starting to make sense, maybe. What, like James Bond? Yeah, except she's Jane Bond. I was pretty pleased with that. Izzy paused, thinking, why would anyone want to turn our telly black and white? Baddies aren't stupid. It could be part of their evil plan, I announced, even though I would admit it seemed like a very strange plan. We sat in silence for a moment, watching the boys fight. What are we going to do? She asked. We should watch her, in case she needs any help, I said. I was starting to feel much more in control now. What, like a spy on the spy? Exactly. Keep her under surveillance. That word again, said Izzy. Like a police stakeout, said Reggie's muffled voice from under Charlie's bottom. I said, not wanting to encourage Reggie to share any more of his espionage tidbits.
What tidbit?
Bits of information.
And what's espionage?
Espionage is spying. It's probably French for spying. Keep going, boys. You're cleaning up that sherbet. You're cleaning up all the sherbet, said Izzy. She was right. As they rolled around on the floor, all the sherbet that Charlie had spilled the day before was sticking to their damp clothes. Let's help them, I said, and we jumped down and rolled the giggling bundle of Charlie and Reggie across the white powder. Just a bit more to get in the corner, said Izzy, trying to turn them around the sofa by the bottom of the staircase. Left a bit, right a bit. Wait, I shouted. What? Replied half of our human sticky roller. Look, there! I pointed at the bottom step, the one before the locked door. Do you see? The others looked. Sherbet, said Charlie, preparing to sit down and finish his cleaning job with his bottom. Izzy held him back. No, I see it, she said. That's a clue, I said. In fact, it was 2 clues, because outlined perfectly in sherbet were 2 footprints. The treads of big, heavy footsteps, and a smaller, narrow one along sides. Footprints? Spies? Red dots? What was going on?
Spots, not dots.
Red spots, thank you. Right. Footprints, spies, red spots, what was going on? Whatever it was, it seemed to be happening right under my nose. And the worst thing was that without the internet, I couldn't even Google it. At that moment, I caught sight of Melissa through the window, walking up our garden path. Izzy rushed off home for tea. I gave Charlie a gentle push after her towards the door. You too, Charlie, I said. Charlie needs instructions, as teacher says. One more thump from Reggie, and Charlie was gone. As I was pulling the door closed behind us, I paused. Reggie, does all this sound normal to you? Do you think anything bad is going to happen? It already has, Reggie said. I haven't been able to play Race Max 2 for weeks. No, worse than that, I said. Though I could see by his face he couldn't imagine anything much worse. Reggie shrugged. You know, with Melissa, I prompted. With her being a spy and everything. I don't know, said Reggie. It's a mystery. It's supposed to be a mystery. All spy stories are. If I wanted reassurance, I wasn't going to get it from Reggie. This was like getting blood out of a stone. Anyway, why all the questions, he continued. You sound like Melissa, or that woman in the reflection room, he said. He was right, I did. Anyway, I'm not worried. I bet lots of people live with spies, they just don't know it. As long as we're okay, and Dad's okay, then there's nothing to worry about, and the new bikes are pretty cool. My stomach lurched. I hadn't given Dad a second thought. Did he even know about Melissa? Surely he wasn't a spy too. Is that what you told the reflection room? Reggie laughed. Are you joking? You know that Frosty is listening to every word you say, don't you? They've probably got a TV in the staff room and everything. Reggie broke free and ran off, still smiling. I paused, lost in thought. Was Mr. Frost running a spy ring? It was possible, though I'd never seen him show much interest in anything except the colour of his jackets and his terrible jokes. And even if he was, who was he spying on and why? It was also confusing. What's more, I seemed to be the only one who felt it was a problem worth solving. Chapter 20. Who spies on the spies? I caught up with Reggie at the front door. Hello, we both shouted as we elbowed our way into the hall. Melissa was in the kitchen, working on her laptop. She was allowed because work screens didn't count in the ban, apparently. In one smooth movement, she closed the lid and got up to greet us. But I was ready for this and managed to catch sight of her screen first. Unfortunately, it had a big graph on it with lots of numbers and not, as I'd hoped, spy shots of the enemy. Hi guys, did you have fun in the park? We were locked out, said Reggie, rummaging in the cupboard for something to eat. Oops, she said. Sorry about that. I can't stop myself. Where did you go? I asked. Dad's gone out for a run. I was dropping Shannon off at the bus stop. She was worried about the rain spoiling her birthday hair, Melissa said, a little unkindly. Anyway, tea will be about an hour, so don't you go filling yourselves up. I've done a nice moussaka, you know, baked aubergines. Reggie's face said it all. Reggie. Why can't we have something out of the freezer? Because we shouldn't be eating all that processed food, said Melissa. It's like they told you in assembly. It's not natural. Aubergines aren't natural, said Reggie. Anything that turns to mush when you cook it isn't natural. You'll love it, said Melissa. And anyway, what's all that white stuff in your clothes? Oh yeah, it's chalk, I interrupted, from the games in the park. And it's all over your back because... no, don't answer that. I don't want... And it's all over your back because... No, don't answer that. I don't want to know. Now get out of this kitchen while I make us a nice salad to go with it. Reggie made another face and we headed for the lounge. We were about to plonk ourselves down when Melissa shouted from the kitchen, and no sitting on the sofa until you both got changed. You had to admit she was sharp, but then I guess only the brightest people go to Spy Academy. Check it out, said Reggie as we left the room, almost done. He was pointing at House 2.0, and he was right. Dad had been busy with his magic marker. All the windows were now solid ink. A carefully shaded soil pipe had been fitted under the toilet outlet. The upstairs windows had curtains tied back. Downstairs were blinds fastened up. A bed was visible in one of the rooms, complete with a United duvet cover. That must be Reggie's. It wasn't quite complete. The kitchen was still empty, for example, but suddenly this looked like a house you could live in, not a child's drawing before the colouring begins. Wow, I said. Where has he got all the money from? Dunno, said Reggie. Extra shifts? I hadn't noticed Dad being at work more than usual. In fact, he seemed to me as if he were around more, not less. Maybe he'd got a promotion. I can't see a TV, said Reggie, peering at the lounge. Probably doesn't think it's worth bothering when there's nothing on, I said. I'm not fussed anyway, said Reggie, heading for the door. I'd rather go out on my bike. And with a slam of the front door, he was gone. Dad returned soon afterwards, and half an hour later we were all sitting down to dinner, except Shannon, of course. I was surprisingly hungry and the moussaka was surprisingly nice. For a moment there was quiet. Not bad, said Dad, not bad at all. Not as good as one of ours, of course, but oi, said Melissa, I bet your version is called something ridiculous too. Not at all, said Dad, taking another thoughtful. It's called Magic Mushy Mouthfuls. Not one of our biggest sellers, I'll admit. With a name like that, I'm not exactly surprised. I'll ignore that, said Dad, especially because I think I came up with it. Anyway, what have you all been up to while I was getting drenched? Reggie told Dad about the games in the park, but I gave him a kick under the table when he started to talk about what we did next and interrupted. And then it was raining, so we all came home, but we couldn't get in because Melissa had locked the door. Melissa made an ups face while Dad shook his head and tutted. She'll learn. Her big city ways aren't needed around here. We must be the safest village in the country, especially with all the new burglar alarms, added Reggie, and the surveillance, I added, testing the waters. I wanted to see what Melissa would do. Dad raised his eyebrows at me, but Melissa simply picked up the serving spoon. Now then, any more for any more? Any more for any more? Now then, any more for any more? Any more for any more? It was dark now, and my mind was whirring. We had gone to bed a bit later than usual because Dad and Melissa had been arguing, and neither of us wanted to go downstairs to say goodnight. It was angry whispers mostly, interrupted by the sounds of washing up. Occasionally Dad's voice rose as he got to whisper. Forgot to whisper, yeah. You say, stand firm, but it's got to be on a joke, I heard him say at one point. That's not the life I want, and it's not what the kids want either. But it was only occasional phrases, and it was hard to make sense of it all. When the last word seemed to have been said, we crept downstairs. Dad was sat on the sofa, his arms outstretched, cycling between the 3 TV channels endlessly as if one of them might burst into colour or even look slightly interesting. Seeing us, he beckoned us over. It's all rubbish, said Reggie. Yeah, he said. We'd do a better job ourselves, I reckon. He turned off the telly. Do you think we'll ever be back to normal? Asked Reggie. Dad didn't say anything. Is that what you want? He pulled Reggie onto his lap. I heard a sound and looked round. Melissa was standing quietly at the door. Dad spotted her, but looked quickly back at Reggie. Not sure, said Reggie. Some of it is okay, I guess. The bikes, the new stuff at school. The play park, I added. Reggie nodded. But, prompted Dad. Prompted Dad. Melissa made to move forward, but gave Dad her another. Melissa made to move forward, but Dad gave her another look. But we used to have loads of fun together, said Reggie, watching TV, games, Race Max 2 and all that stuff, and now you're at work and we're in the park. Dad gave Reggie a squeeze. Yeah, he said, I know what you mean. It'll all come right, I promise. Promise? Reggie looked up at Dad, who reached out and pulled me into his bundle. Promise. Now get yourselves to bed. Go on, scram. We'll need all that energy for Shannon tomorrow. She'll be like a bear with a sore head. As we passed Melissa in the doorway, she gave us both a quick kiss on the head. Your dad's right, she said. Everything happens for a reason. See you in the morning. In bed, my mind was spinning, thinking about those footprints in the sherbet. Even if one of them was Melissa, who was the other? In the darkness, I heard Reggie shuffle. I knew he was still awake. We should measure the footprints, I said softly, so we can check out people's shoes. Too late. They're already gone, murmured Reggie. I jolted awake. What are you talking about? The footprints. They've been cleaned up. Right. Night-night. No, wait, I said, sitting up. What do you mean they've all been cleaned up? Who cleaned them up? I don't know, but I saw it through the window. And all the furniture's been moved around. I forgot my jumper, so I went back to get it, but the door was locked. I lay back down with a hump and stared at the ceiling. A red light flashed in the corner. The more I thought about it, the less it all made sense, and the more tired I became. I was on the edge of sleep when Reggie spoke again. There she goes again, he said quietly. Listen. Front door open. There was a moment of silence, followed by an unmistakable metallic click. Front door closed. And then that soft electrical sound again, fading back into the night. I fell into a troubled sleep, dreaming that I had gone up for an award at assembly, but as Frosty handed it over, he laughed. And as he laughed, his face melted like wax. Underneath was Melissa, who was laughing too, and that set off the rest of the school. They fell about, uncontrollable, and I ran from the hall with my hands over my ears, out of the village and onto the fells, but as far as I ran, all I could hear was the laughter. Chapter 22, Shannon Reinvented. Reggie was already up when I woke the next morning, the duvet abandoned on the floor and the curtains yanked half open. I lay on my back, listening to the sounds of Sunday. The church bell chimed 1:30, but 1:30 what? I had no idea. After the rain of the previous day, it sounded as if small boys had been sent out for their exercise. Shouts and yelps drifted across from the play park. Downstairs, I could hear Reggie chattering away. The clattering of pots and pans and the slow crescendo of the kettle coming to a boil. Crescendo is, I think it's a sound rising or descending. I'd like you to look up that word after for me, son. Read out the definition.
We use it in the piano lesson.
That will be Dad getting ready for our big Sunday breakfast. Once or twice a month, whenever he didn't have a Sunday shift, we'd eat our cereal to the sound of bacon sizzling and spitting in the frying pan. Dad would race through his cornflakes and jump to his feet, fetching the dented white metal jug from the fridge. One of the few things that did come from a packet. Dad's pancake batter was his pride and joy. He made it to his grand's recipe, risking it into silky bubbles and leaving it to rest in the fridge overnight. As we ate, he'd wait patiently for his square cast iron skillet to heat up, holding a steady hand over it to test the temperature. "We're off," he'd say when the time was right. He'd poured the smooth, pale batter into the pan and, from shoulder height, raising and lowering the jug like a top cocktail waiter. 5 perfect discs would appear, positioned like spots on dice. He'd turn his back on the pancakes while they cooked and chat to anybody who was up, leaning across to thwack Reggie with the spatula if he was being cheeky. Perhaps it was the rising smell of toasting pancakes or a change in the sizzle, but he always exactly knew when to turn and flip the discs over, like counters on a board game. A short time later, he'd slide the nut brown circles into the warm oven, heat the pan back up and start again. 5 times over, 25 pancakes in total, slumped higgledy-piggledy on the oval plate alongside unruly crumples of rusty bacon. This particular morning, as I lay in my bed thinking about pancakes, there was an unexpected voice in the chatter that rose from the kitchen. Shannon. She rarely made it for breakfast. Normally, she'd slope down late in the morning and hunch over her cereal bowl, her long hair screening the view of her grumpy face as she tapped out SOS instant messages to her friends. I swung my legs out of bed and padded downstairs. My hand rested for a moment on one of Reggie's jumpers drying over the banister. It was the blue one, still damp from yesterday's rain. "That's all I thought," Reggie said. It was locked inside Enid's front room. "Good morning, sleepy bones," said Shannon as I entered the kitchen, rubbing my eyes. Shannon's hair was wrapped in a towel, her face still pink from the shower. "We've been up for ages, haven't we, Reggie?" No grumpy faces here. Clearly Shannon's birthday had been a success. I took a seat and poured myself some muesli. Melissa had brought that home. Melissa was there too, sipping her coffee and flicking through a magazine while Dad worked his pancake magic. "Nearly done," he said, sliding the last batch onto the hot plate and placing it on the table. That's when I noticed what was missing. "Where's the bacon, Dad?" We haven't got any," said Melissa, not looking up. "It's not good for you to eat too much meat," said Shannon. "It's not good for you to eat too much meat," said Shannon, reaching for the low-fat yoghurt. I did the same when we tucked in. We chatted about Shannon's night out. Epic, but that's about as much as she'd say. Melissa ran to restart her long-distance running. Melissa's plan to restart her long-distance running and Reggie's up-and-coming sports day. What are you guys up to today?" asked Shannon. She tucked a stray lock of hair back under her towel and looked at me expectantly. Well, I don't know," I said. I guess I'll head over to the play park, maybe meet up with Izzy. It sounds a simple question, but I wasn't really used to it. Now that I thought about it, I couldn't remember the last time Shannon had asked me a question. You should get out on the village bikes, said Shannon, reaching for another pancake. Maybe explore a bit, get some exercise. Yeah, well, thanks for the fitness advice, I said. Shame it has to come from someone who watches 8 hours of tally every day. In black and white, added Reggie. Calm down, you two, warned Melissa. But Shannon didn't react in any case. Not me, I'm meeting friends, she said, though nobody had asked. Does anyone want any more kiwi? Dad shook his head, though it was hard to know if that was because he'd had enough kiwi or because he couldn't understand this new improved Shannon who was eating breakfast with us. Charlie and me are going to do planes, said Reggie. Dad peered out the window at the white clouds scuddering across the blue sky. It might work, he said. Doing planes meant that Reggie and Charlie would be heading for the path behind the church, the one up the side of the fell. Dad discovered long ago that if you climbed to the first bend, there was a flat rock that made the perfect spot to launch a paper aeroplane. When you could feel the warmth of the sun on your face, if the wind was wafting gently in the right direction, and if you gave your plane a big throw, your plane would soar above the church and out over the village, rising and banking on the currents. The back door opened and Charlie barreled in. Morning, Mr. Batty. Morning, Mrs. Batty, he said cheerily to Melissa. Shannon shrieked with laughter and then started to cough on a piece of kiwi. No, I'm not, Mrs. began Melissa, but Charlie started poking at the pancakes and clearly wasn't listening. There, said Dad, red with embarrassment, and now slapping her on the back harder than necessary. Now then, Charlie, help yourself to... you already have. Nuff... What?
Bingo.
Schnurgle, said Charlie, his cheeks bulging and his fingers reaching out for more. Such charming manners, said Melissa with a grimace. Come on, Charlie, let's make our plane, said Reggie. Hey, I'll help you, said Shannon. For a second I was wondering if I was hearing things. Shannon, helping. The others were as shocked as me, judging by their reaction. What? Said Shannon. I'm great at making planes. We could colour them red or something, so they're easier to see. Dad raised his eyebrows and smiled. Don't forget your plates, he shouted as they tried to leave the room. Reggie shuffled back to collect his bowl and cup. Just put them in the sink, said Melissa as Reggie went to open the dishwasher. It's your dad's turn on Sundays. Melissa pointed to a chart on the fridge that definitely wasn't there yesterday. We all squinted at it. Washing up rota. My name was down for Thursdays. What's that? I said. What do you think it is, Dumbo? Asked Shannon. Well, I know what it is, but why do we need one of those when we have a dishwasher? We don't have a dishwasher, or at least we won't after today, said Dad, tidying up the table. You're getting rid of yours too, Mr. Batty? Asked Charlie, swiping a last piece of fruit. Makes sense, said Dad. They cost a packet to run. That's rubbish, I said. We did it in last year's school. You use less water and it hardly uses any electricity. My mum says that they make you soft, called Charlie from the hall. Dad turned to Melissa. Help. It's going and that's that, she said, which didn't explain anything. You'll get used to it, Shannon added, who was perhaps the last person in the world I expected to agree. And that seemed to be the end of the matter. Reggie, Shannon and Charlie disappeared into the lounge and I sat in silence with Dad and Melissa for as long as I could stand, which was about 30 seconds. I grabbed my jacket from the hall and looked in on the others. All three were bent over the table. Shannon was folding, the other boys were colouring. I was about to leave them to it when I noticed the TV had gone. The TV, I said, pointing unnecessarily. What's happened to it? Dunno, said Reggie, not looking up. They can't get rid of the tally. What's the matter? Worried about missing your boring old wildlife documentaries, said Shannon. But don't you care? Nobody looked up. Are you going to go along with all this until there's nothing left? No reaction. Pass me the red felt tip, please, Charlie, Shannon said, and left the room and slammed the door behind me. Bang. It sounded good. I'm sure I could hear the others laughing. So for good measure, I did it again as I left the house. Bang! Okay, so on to chapter 22 next.
Can't we read one more chapter?